Welcome to the No Sugarcoating podcast. Welcome to episode 405. I'm your host, Amber Romaniuk, and I'm so excited that you are here with me. Of course, welcome to those that are listening and those of you that are with me live on YouTube. Of course, as you know, I do record these via YouTube now, as well as just audio. So if you're wanting to watch a video, you can. Of course, it's me chatting away. But I also love the video because I have my YouTube comments open and you can leave comments, questions, feedback, thoughts. Like, I just love interaction. I want to interact with you. And to me, the YouTube is just such a great way to do so. So welcome to all of you. I'm so happy that you're here. And for those that are just listening to audio and you want to come join me on YouTube, my channel is Amber Romaniuk, Romaniuk. And the link will be in the show notes to make it really easy for you. So, this week's episode it's vulnerable and I'm excited and I'm a little nervous. I'm not going to lie, because I'm going to be sharing some things today that are on my heart, and that can take courage and it's uncomfortable. But of course, I'm here to lead and be an example and share my human and that I go through stuff too. And I've really been inspired over the last week and gained a lot of clarity around some things that I feel like have been missing in my business, and things that have felt stagnant energetically. And that is because I have been putting myself in a box and holding back parts of me that I have chosen I'm no longer going to hold back. And of course, I'm going to dive into all of that today and share what I mean. It's definitely given me some nerves. Anyways, this is why we're here, right? So this week's episode is all about why we fear being vulnerable. I'm going to go deep into like why we hesitate, why we procrastinate, why we hold back on being vulnerable. Because all it does is hold us back from deeper healing, deeper growth, power, abundance, love, connection, money, expansion, like helping ourselves, having more inner peace. Like it's deep when we hold back. We block energy from flowing through the body. We can amplify physical symptoms, all kinds of things. How vulnerability builds self-love, courage, and authenticity, because it does. It only builds deeper self-love, courage, and authenticity. And I'll tell you right away as I get into this vulnerability conversation, like this has been my theme of the year unexpectedly. I didn't choose vulnerability as my 2023 theme. The universe is like, here you go. You need to go through this. And as I am, so many beautiful things are happening. And I'm so grateful for the discomfort that I've been put through. It's been very uncomfortable start of the year, but I mean, that's okay, because it's always the universe is conspiring for our greater good. And I trust, and it's all good. And then steps to start easing into more vulnerability. So I'm going to talk to you about some ways that you yourself can start easing into vulnerability. So make sure, like I said, if you're watching on YouTube, come to the chat, share with me like your takeaways, your questions, what you're going to start stepping into, where you fear. Like, do you avoid being vulnerable because you fear being judged? You fear people making fun of you. You fear abandonment. You fear it can negatively impact like your work, your career, business, current relationships. Like, why do you hold back? Because if we're in the aligned relationships, work, et cetera, like people will be supportive. It's when we're out of alignment and people aren't supportive that there's just things to look at. So of course, if you want to check out the show notes for this week's episode, you can go to amberapproved.ca/podcast/405. So any links that I've talked about today will be in there. And of course, if you're watching on YouTube, it'll just be below in the description. So I wanted to just say today, as you listen to this episode, I feel like this is going to be one that you're going to want to listen to many times over, because you're going to take different things away. Get a journal out. You're going to take lots of notes. You're going to like write down questions and things that you're going to want to spend more time reflecting on. But I just feel like this is going to be one of those episodes you're going to want to replay. And as you're listening to this episode today, if you resonate with what I'm sharing, what I've been going through, and you have this deep desire to break out of the fear of being yourself, you're tired of like holding parts of yourself back, you're tired of watching others around you thrive and fully be themselves, and you're tired of holding yourself back and then resenting yourself because you're not giving yourself permission to say, be, do how you want to be. I do a lot of coaching with my clients on this very topic, and tied to this is building worthiness, helping make amends with your inner child, clearing out past abandonments and judgments that have happened to you. So if you want to explore support in a very safe space where you're so loved and so heard, never judged, and will never be, made to feel uncomfortable in your vulnerability, you can always come and join me to go on this journey. I never used to be vulnerable, and I found healing my relationship with food, overcoming food addiction, learning to love myself helped to slowly crack me open to more vulnerability. And now I'm just opening up to it more, because when you keep getting all these messages from the universe that's like, okay, vulnerability, if you don't do it, we're going to force you into it. Like, the universe just pushes you into things if you're hesitant, resisting, taking too long. Well, that's totally been me this year. And it's been a beautiful experience to go through. So I'm grateful I got a big nudge from the universe. And now I'm trying to just flow forward with myself without the universe needing to throw a big brick at my head, right? Just pebbles are good. But I just want to let you know that if you've been considering reaching out and you are nervous to do so, this is a safe space. It's a supportive space. You're never judged. You're always taken at your pace, baby steps, one step at a time, to build a really solid foundation. And it's important you feel safe and reassured, because I know it can be emotional to go on the journey. And I know it's you taking a big leap of courage and faith. So just know that this is a safe space, and you're going to hear a lot from me today that's probably going to feel very relatable for you. And I've just added some extra online programs to the online program page of my website. So if you want to do hormone harmony self-study and learn more about your hormones at your own pace, the 3-day release masterclass series is there, and you can dive into both of those right away. There's a lot being added back. I've been going through some back end changes on my website, and it's taken some time, but things are coming back into place, and that means I can add more stuff back. So I'm really, really excited. So I'm going to take a sip of water, and then we're going to dive in. Okay. So I know I said I would talk about chasing numbers and number addiction. That will come probably next week, but this just felt so important for me to share from my heart today. And I know you will all take something different away from this, and that it will help inspire you or just help you as well. My heart and my business have led me to realize I've been holding back. I've been holding back these parts of me for fear of getting censored, for fear of getting judged, for fear of some of you getting triggered or leaving because, something irks you the wrong way, albeit you may have already been triggered anyway. And being triggered can be a good thing because it's your ego that's getting triggered. Obviously, I'm not trying to purposefully trigger anyone or upset anyone. However, holding back these parts of me is something I can no longer do. And I want to share this story with you about vulnerability and the power of it. And I am really putting myself out here with love. So I trust many of you will relate. And if you don't, then that's totally okay. I'm just sending everyone love. Doesn't matter. So what I've observed is I've been holding back these parts of me in my business. They flow forward in every other aspect of my life. I don't hold back, but here I do. And I've observed that, this is a form of people pleasing. Well, I'm not going to say certain things. I'm going to stay neutral on everything going on in the world. I'm going to just not talk about it and keep my mouth shut because there's no point, and I don't want to upset anyone. I don't want anyone to leave. I don't blah, 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 because it's my business. But what I've come to really realize is there's been a stagnancy in my business because I'm holding back, and I can't allow that stagnancy to continue. And I'm going to get more into this right away. And I've had some things happen over the last few weeks that have just been such divine intervention leading up to this point, and I'm going to talk about that. So first, let's talk about why we fear being vulnerable. To be honest with you, it's super easy to talk about my past, right? Like talking about the binge eating, the food addiction, like self-sabotage, the weight struggles, the body image insecurities, all the past stuff is so easy to talk about. It's honestly harder at first to talk about like current experiences, struggles, ahas, vulnerabilities, because it's literally now in the present moment. And there's risk, because it is really an emotional risk, because I can't, nor do I want to, control how I'm received, how you respond, how you react, what your thoughts are. I can't control that. I don't want to control that. I am here to give everyone permission to respond and react the way that they desire to, and that you are received with love. But the ego wants to be like, oh my God, don't say anything because you don't have control. And what if someone gets upset and blah, 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 blah. But that's all the ego. But we fear being vulnerable because it's a state of emotional exposure. right? There is a certain degree of uncertainty that comes with being vulnerable. There's a certain level of risk because it involves my willingness, your willingness, if you're going to get vulnerable, to accept an emotional risk that comes from being open and being willing to love and be loved. So I'm not sharing this with you today, right? Because I want to trigger you or upset you. I'm sharing this because this is me coming from love. And I guess it's just like, hey, like I'm putting myself out there on a deeper level because I want to show you that I go through my stuff too. I want to show you that it's safe to do so. You're powerful. This is part of healing and up level and leadership and lead by example, right? I noticed I was people pleasing in my business by holding these parts of me back. And I don't want to people please in my business. I don't want to feel like I can't fully be who I am. And obviously, I'm not going to be mean. I'm not here to like tell you what to think or believe. I'm just here to express a little bit more of my opinion with love. And I'm here for the good of humanity. Obviously, you guys that are listening and watching, you know that I come from love and I come from a good place. And I'm just coming with a deeper level of self-expression. But we fear being vulnerable for that reason. It's a very common fear, right? Do you struggle with vulnerability when you think about getting vulnerable with your partner, your loved ones, your friends, your family? Maybe you're thinking about sharing, vulnerable story on your social media, right? There is fear there because it's uncomfortable. You're stepping out of a comfort zone. If you have people pleasing issues, you're like, oh my gosh, what are people going to think? Maybe I shouldn't do it because I don't want to ruffle any feathers. But then you're doing yourself a disservice, number one, by holding back. You're holding back part of like your energy, your vitality, your flow, your essence while you're here. And then you're also holding back because what if you share and it also has a positive ripple effect? And even if it just impacted one other person, what if you moved emotionally one other person? What if you inspired another person to be vulnerable? What if another person heard you listen to whatever, like, I never thought you felt that way. Like, I feel the same way. Thank you for sharing that. Like, I remember when I first shared my story about binge eating and all of that, when I first started my business, like I literally printed off like a copy and faxed it to all my family members before it went on my website because nobody knew. Because there was fear and I'm like, I don't want to be judged, blah, 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 blah. And like, I was only well received because so many people could relate. And I know a lot of you can relate to the fear of vulnerability. I know you can. And if you rock at being vulnerable, kudos to you. I'm so excited and happy for you. We could learn from you, but this is part of my evolution and growth and another level of healing and a deeper level of self-love. And it's very powerful, but we get into the fear state. And so that comes with people pleasing, perfection. Maybe you're the kind of person that you feel you have to morph and mold your personality and how you act based on who you're hanging out with. That's fear of being vulnerable. You can't be yourself. You have to say certain things dressed a certain way, right? To appease other people. We want to heal that people pleasing because what's below that is that insecurity. I don't feel good enough. I don't feel worthy. And I'm so desperately needing to grasp validation and affirmation from others. I've given my power away to others. And the only way that I know I'm good enough is if I get reassurance from them. Now, we don't want that dynamic. That's a very unhealthy dynamic because that means you'll pretty much do, be, act, say anything to get that approval from others. And that you're so disconnected from yourself. Yeah, we want, it's nice to get compliments from others and validation, but we want to be able to validate ourselves and encourage ourselves and give ourselves this affirmation and reassurance. That's where self-love comes in, and it takes time to build it. And that's why, like, you always hear me talking about it in the podcast, like be willing to come and do this deeper healing. I started doing video testimonials, and the one thing across the board that all of my previous clients are saying is like, don't feel ashamed to ask for help. Don't feel guilty asking for help. Stop judging yourself for getting help, knowing it's going to completely change your life and you get to finally fully step into the woman you've always dreamed of being. And the fact that they're all saying this, it's like, wow, this is so profound, right? Like, be willing to come forth. I know it can be nerve-wracking. I know it can feel a little uncomfortable. However, as I keep saying, it's a safe space. You're so safe. You're so supported. You are only met with love because I get how vulnerable healing is. I get how vulnerable healing your relationship with food is, or wanting to try and build self-love, or wanting to work through your people-pleasing tendencies or your perfection, or asking for help, connecting with yourself and feeling your emotions. I get the discomfort. I get what comes up around it. So just know that I understand where you're coming from, because I've been through it too. And I'm sure a lot of you also have. So why do we fear vulnerability if vulnerability is such a good thing? Because it is, right? We fear vulnerability because we fear rejection, we fear judgment, we fear being put down, we fear being abandoned. We don't want to be let down. We don't want others to receive us in a negative way that leads us to feel disappointment, shame, fear, grief, right? We don't want to feel rejected. We don't want to feel abandoned. We don't want to be made fun of. We don't want to be bullied. And so I think that that's a huge reason why we fear it. And then the ego, right? This negative voice in the mind comes up and goes, don't be vulnerable. You're not going to be well received. What if you're judged? What if people leave? What if you get abandoned? What if like this negatively impacts X, Y, Z, right? Don't be yourself. You're kind of different or weird or woo or whatever, which all of that's false. The only like creation of those perceptions has been from places where people don't want people to step into their power. These big systems that be do not want you to fully embrace your power. Why do you think a huge part of society views spirituality and like astrology and tarot cards and pendulums and all these things as woo or weird or you're a quack? Because these tools actually can really help us. Intuition, intuitive gifts, energy healing, like these are pure essence parts of who we are, yet they've been so poo-pooed by so many different aspects of the systems we grew up in. And then we're taught, oh, well, you don't want to be weird. You don't want to be different. You don't want to be out of the crowd. So you best not get into any of those kinds of things, right? That's part of society. It's not all of society. But this is what's been coming up for me, you know, over the last few months. I've really deeply desired to just fully be myself. And I am in every area of my life, but in my business. And obviously, I'm not going to go into a client session and like start spouting my opinions about things going on in the world. Like I'm not, that's obviously not what I'm meaning by having this conversation with you today. Obviously, if a question comes up, right, I naturally have certain conversations that come up with clients where we start talking about things, but I'm never like, you need to believe this, this is what's going on. Like, that's not what this is about. But what this is about is if I'm in a podcast episode, a YouTube video, I've also started a Rumble channel because they don't censor it all there. And so there's certain things I'll probably share more over there because I don't want my podcast to get censored. I don't want my YouTube to get censored. Yes, censorship is a real thing. And it's happened to so many people who are trying to share truths, trying to share great information, even just herbal remedies for immunity. Like I have colleagues that are like, yeah, my stuff's getting censored because I'm trying to even just share stuff like that. And it's absolutely ridiculous, but it's all happening to expose systems that are not in support for humanity, et cetera, et cetera. So it goes on. And these new platforms have been created to host us that want to share and not have that. So if you want to come and join me on Rumble, where I'm sharing my truths, my opinions, my beliefs on a deeper level of healing, of binge eating, emotional eating, body image, distortion, brainwashing, conditioning on like self-hate and the ego and why the ego is so conditioned to lead us. And tying all that into the awakening, which is occurring. It is inevitable. Over half the world is waking up to all the things going on in the world. And it's very deep. And that's what I'm not going to hold back on anymore. So if I'm in the middle of like, I swear when I start recording my podcast, it's like the universe, I'm just like connected and it's like all this just comes through. Like I rarely ever prepare notes. It's literally like, okay, I'm ready. I start talking and it's like, it just flows through the universe. It's called our channel and we're all so connected. And so essentially it's like, if I'm doing my podcast and I'm channeling what's coming through and it's like, oh, I better not say that because it might offend someone. I'm not going to hold back. I'm going to say, hey, like this is part of this system. And this is why and how I think this is negatively contributing to humanity. And this is what we can do ourselves to set boundaries, to do our part, to shift, right? And to detach more from that so it doesn't have such a negative impact on us. I'm always going to bring a positive spin. I'm not the news. I don't want to be the news. I am not here to spread negativity. I'm not getting into politics. That is just a whole mess of a thing. It's kind of hilarious when you take a really big step back, but it's more so like, I want you to understand the physical, mental, emotional, energetic, and spiritual connections between you and your blocks, and like how the world and all the systems that have had such a significant impact that you don't even realize. Or maybe you do a little bit, maybe you do fully, and you're like, finally, Amber, finally, thank you for fully stepping into you. You know, I remember a couple years ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, I had a client that I was working with, and I was trying to share with her how like Starbucks sprays a ton of pesticides on their beans to get a higher yield. And there's all kinds of studies and research coming out that their beans are extremely high in pesticides, among other garbage. And it's impacting women's fertility. And she was having issues to get pregnant. And she was having Starbucks like every day. And so I was like, okay, like, are you open to hearing this? And then she like quit because she's like, I don't believe that. And that's fine. Like, I wasn't forcing anything on her, but it's like, after that happened, I'm like, oh, I better not share because I don't want to ruffle any feathers. But it's like, these are truths. You can go and search this stuff. Like, this isn't hidden. And the things that I'm going to share, I'm going to definitely be able to back up. And some of you are going to feel so resonant with it, and some of you won't. And there's reasons for that. We're all on different evolutionary journeys. Some of us we're more tapped into our intuition. Some of us aren't. Some of us choose to look and explore and have a more open mind. Some people don't. There's many reasons, and there's no bad or wrong, right or wrong for where you're at and what you're choosing to focus your energy on. I'm not here to judge. I'm not here to divide. I love and respect everyone in my world and in my life, regardless of their beliefs and opinions. Because I have people on all walks and all spectrums, right? But I don't want to divide there's enough divide. They've caused enough divide. We're divided. United we stand, divided we fall. And I want us to unite. But yeah, anyway, so that's all the like, what if you judge me, blah, 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 all that stuff, right? Rather than trusting that this is all evolving and unfolding because my business wants me to be myself. Like when I meditate, sometimes I'll envision like my business as a person, and she's like got a flower crown and she's like frolicking through a flower field and she's so happy. And I meditate and I talk to her and I'm like, hey, do you need anything? Is there anything you want? Like, what messages do you have for me? Like, is there anything I should shift in my business? And this whole 2023, there's just been this stuck energy, this stagnancy that I've been feeling. And when I meditate, she hasn't been in her flower field. And I'm like, where did she go? Like, and then I started, right? Like having this aha of like, wow, she's upset with me because I'm holding back and she doesn't want me to hold back. Like, I really believe my business is this energy. And it's so important that I like tap into this energy and take in these messages, just like my higher self gives me messages, right? Like the animals can give us messages, the sky, like there's so much that can guide us. So I'm no longer people pleasing in my business. I obviously am a very professional, loving coach and mentor. This doesn't change the way that I coach. I'm just not holding back when I record my content, essentially, or I share an Instagram post. So many of us hold back, though, in different ways. So now I'm going to like tie this back into the vulnerability and holding back. Like, where are you holding back in your life out of fear? Fear of getting uncomfortable, fear of being rejected, fear of judgment, fear of losing business, fear of failure, right? It's not just vulnerability. Like, fear holds us back. But each like thing I just mentioned, there's a level of vulnerability, right? Like when you start a business, you're putting yourself out there, there's vulnerability there. When you start speaking your truth and your opinions, there's vulnerability. When you ask for help and you're not used to asking for help, is it ever uncomfortable and painful? But when you're so well received, it's worth it, but it's uncomfortable. There's fear there, right? When I was healing my relationship with food, all my friends wanted to go out and drink and party and eat garbage all the time. And I didn't want to do that anymore. And then like, I noticed my friend circle start to change and I didn't want to like people pleased and like end up not feeling good. Right. So there's this risk, but what's incredible is when we don't hold back, miracles happen, right? Like so many will hold back with healing. You'll never gain the self-love or love from others, the power, the support, the community, the freedom, the happiness, the like, weight lifting off your shoulders. You'll never share your truths, your opinions, your thoughts, your beliefs, right? And be detached from the world. We live in a world where the ego has been so conditioned front and center to judge others so quickly and to judge ourselves And judgment only creates divide, criticism, conflict, ill will, name calling, belittling, rather than respecting each other for opposing beliefs and or the same beliefs and being okay with it and still loving one another, right? I love all of my clients, listeners, followers, whoever you are, family, friends, like equally. I'm not here to hate. I came here to love, and I came here to help raise the vibration of this planet. I am not here to make it worse. I'm here to help make it better. So I come from love and respect. And I know that you already know that, but it's that bit of nerves. It's like, I want to reassure you, right? There's that people pleasing, but it's like, no, like, you know, if you know, and if you don't, that's okay. But many of us hold back, and then we hold back from a more miraculous life. Some fear, you know, if we fully step into who we're meant to be, that we will have such a magnitude of success, happiness, freedom, and everything that we want. And then the boom, ooh, maybe I'm not worthy though, comes in. Maybe you don't feel worthy or ready for it. And then you self-sabotage and you pull back, you hold back, right? And I just noticed my business is like, Amber, you can keep sharing what you are, you can keep going in the circle that you are, but you're missing out on deeper things, bigger things to help people on a deeper level, to connect the dots on a deeper level with their healing and help them better understand. And it's funny too, the holding back has had a negative impact on my throat chakra. So this is why I just can't anymore. I started kind of sharing a little bit in the new year, and then I was like, oh, I better just share like these certain things. And I did. And I felt my throat chakra get so suppressed, my thyroid, and I had anxiety for 4 days. I literally had to like just sit on the couch and rest. It was so uncomfortable. And this was my body being like, stop holding back, speak your truth. You're coming with love, trust. None of this would have happened the last 3 months if the universe wasn't like, okay, Amber, if you're not gonna, we're gonna make you, you know, like I have to laugh and bring some humor in, because being a human is such an adventure sometimes. But yeah, so I just can't anymore. So many would rather hold back to keep peace, to not ruffle any feathers, to not risk anything. But that doesn't help me evolve. That doesn't help you evolve. That doesn't help me help you step more into your power. It doesn't help us first fulfill ourselves and our own happiness and this huge weight that's just being lifted off my shoulders as I share this with you, and our passions. And of course, then it doesn't help you and others if I'm holding back, right? And this is where our comfort zones can start to become detrimental, because it can become a hazard to our health, our well-being, our vibration, our vitality. Like I said, it really impacted my thyroid. There's been a stagnancy in my business. Like last week, my intuition's like, delete half your website. Like none of this is relevant anymore. I'm like, holy crap, like that's so true. So I like got rid of just what felt old. I feel like my whole business energy of my business is shifting in a good way, but it's like clearing out the past, having love and appreciation for it and clearing it out. Right. And it feels so good to do so. And I have so many new ideas for content. Like I want to do a whole vulnerability workshop masterclass series. I want to do a whole series on like up leveling into your power, like energy, empath, like ego mindset, insecurities. Like there's so many things that are going to be coming that are more emotional, energetic, and spiritual that will tie into the physical, the physical body, the symptoms that you're going through. So there's lots coming. So if you have any content ideas or things you want to see for upcoming masterclasses or workshops or programs, leave them in the comments, please. I want your feedback. It's very vital to help me know what you need and want support with, and what kind of content and programs will help you out. So when we step into alignment and we step into our truth and we fully give ourselves permission to be ourselves and we love ourselves through it, your body heals on a deeper level. You release the protection more easily. Your nervous system calms down. But of course, you know, we want to step into vulnerability at a rate that feels tolerable for us, because if we try to do too much vulnerability at once, or we try to like make too many really uncomfortable changes at once, it can overwhelm our nervous system. So we want to take it at a mindful pace, right? Don't be on the quick fix route. That doesn't work here. But when we're out of alignment, our vibration drops. And essentially, like I said, what was happening for me is like, I've been observing other women and seeing how magnetizing they are being themselves. They're creating more success, right? They're just being them and they're expressing all of who they are. And I've secretly inside been pissed at myself, resenting myself for observing them and letting my fear and hesitancy of what others think hold me back. And resentment is not a good thing to feel and not a good thing to hold inside. And it is very low vibration and it is not good. Right. And that's when my throat chakra and my thyroid got upset with me a couple weeks ago. Right. Because I was choking back this divine part of me, choking back my words, choking back all of who I am in my voice. And I use my voice a lot. Right. I record these podcasts. I'm going to start doing more YouTube stuff. So make sure you come and subscribe there. The Rumble channel, like interviews, right? Instagram content. There's a lot. And if I'm holding back, it's suppressing these parts. So again, like I'm not going to blame myself, but this is on me. Like I take full ownership and responsibility. It's no one else's fault. And I have compassion for the little girl, the little Amber, right inside, who's just like, I don't want anyone to not like me. I just want everyone to love me and I want everyone to be happy, right? Like she's just like, I don't want anyone to be upset with me. And it's like, little Amber, I love you. You're so safe. You don't have to worry, right? You're safe. Because I remember being a kid and bless my dad's heart, but him being like, just be good. Don't talk about that. You don't want to ruffle any feathers. I remember when things, hit 3 years ago and dad's like, don't talk about that. You don't want to lose business. So there's still that same pattern. I'm like, I better be the good girl. I don't want to upset anybody, right? Like that's my little Amber voice. And I'm like, oh, I love you so much, little Amber. And I've done so much inner child healing. I love inner child healing. If you want to do inner child healing with me, I do it in one-on-one. And I do it in the Body Freedom membership. So you can come for a month or you can come for a longer term, but there's all kinds of meditations and practices to help you connect with your inner child on a deeper level. And just as an aside, something really cool about inner child healing is that for so many of my clients and myself included, as you mend the relationship with her and you help her clear the wounds of times past, your nervous system regulates so much more easily. You release so much pent up emotion and stuck energy out of your body. And I've had a few clients in the past weeks be like, oh my gosh, my body's releasing protection. They're not focusing on weight loss. They're not dieting. They're not killing their body, themselves in the gym. Like they're literally sitting for 10 minutes and talking to this hurt part of them and nurturing her and supporting her and reassuring her and crying with her and hugging her. Like this is profound. And this is what's helping the weight go. This is what's helping the hormones balance. This is what's reducing the self-sabotage with food, getting vulnerable with ourselves, feeling through our emotions. So I wanted to acknowledge my inner child because she's been calling the shots and I love her, but she's not calling the shots anymore. I'm calling the shots, right? We all have our human parts. You're fully, I couldn't really get more vulnerable than I'm getting right now, really. So again, thank you for witnessing me. And if you're not on YouTube and you don't have any social media platforms, pop me an email, info@amberprove.ca if you want to share your story, your hesitancy around vulnerability, what you took away from today, what inspired you about this episode. Like I love hearing from my listeners, my viewers. I love connecting. I'm a community gal. So reach out. I always respond. So how do you become closed off? Well, I've kind of just been talking about that, right? As a small child, you're so open. Like look at kids. They wear what they want. They dance around. They talk about everything. They big dreamers. Your imagination's so open because you haven't been heavily conditioned yet. Your ego hasn't been hurt, a lot yet, until you start hitting like 4, 5, 6 beyond. But you're free and you're sharing all of yourself with others. You're in full vulnerability and you don't even realize it when you're a child. And as you grow up and mature, you go through experiences that make you perceive your reality. So maybe you get hurt, you get abandoned, maybe your older sibling got more attention than you. And then you're like, I'm not lovable. I'm not worthy because my older sibling got more attention than me. My best friend was thinner and she's pretty and I'm not, so I'm not good enough, right? Maybe you got hurt. Maybe you were traumatized in some way, maybe you're abused. I'm so sorry for whatever you've been through. I'm just sending you so much love. But then our inner child and our wounding and those memories make us feel like we're a victim and the world's out to get us in all this bad stuff and that things don't go your way and life doesn't happen for you and you have bad luck, which is all false negative thoughts and limiting beliefs that we can heal through doing beautiful work on the subconscious mind, right? Affirmations, tapping, things like that. And then over time, you learn to protect yourself. So maybe you've been hurt. Maybe you got broken up with. Maybe you got told like me, when I was 5, that I was fat and ugly. And I started to form this unconscious layer of protection around my body to protect myself. I remember when I went through that bad breakup and I lost the weight really fast, and then I gained it all back, and then I would lose weight, and then I would date someone and it wouldn't work out, and I'd get upset, and I was unconsciously putting the weight back on because I didn't want to get hurt again. And this is the wall building up in a protective standpoint. Maybe you have an energetic wall built up around your heart, right? To convince yourself that people don't love you, you're not good enough, like whatever the story is. And it becomes this state of denial that we can get into. Or maybe you're internalizing all these negative thoughts, memories, and emotions, which is really unhealthy. And you're getting really hard on yourself. Like I said, I've been resenting myself for the last 2.5 months. And that's such a low vibration. And I don't want to hold that in. So I'm letting that all go now. So what are you hanging on to? What are you holding on inside that you can feel building up in your body that is not healthy for you? Right. But essentially your hurt and hanging on to your hurt and your hurt inner child fuels all of this. And I mean, it's good to get upset and process through things, but hanging on to it is very self-defeating. It's really important to learn from your mistakes or learn from whatever's happened for you and strive to heal it, forgive, let go, and move forward. And it's important to forgive yourself. Like it was so important for me to forgive myself from all the binge eating and all the self-sabotage. It was important for me to forgive the older boys that called me fat and ugly because they didn't know any better either, right? Holding the grudge, again, we can hang on to protection. I'm hanging on to the past. If you're constipated, it may be because you're hanging on to the past and you're lacking forgiveness, right? But then we think like, oh, if I just stay in this comfort zone, if I put up all these walls, if I don't put myself out there, if I just like go along with life and never, step outside the box, then I'm safe and I can't get hurt or judged or abandoned or rejected, right? But this blocks the flow of energy and love in and out of us, our businesses, your careers, your families, your relationships. And it can become a comfort zone and feel really familiar to get trapped in your own emotional defenses of unworthiness. And I've been hurt and I don't want to risk putting myself out there, right? You struggle to receive compliments, to give love, receive love. But it doesn't serve you to stay in that, but it comes from this wounded inner child that's gone through different experiences where she got hurt, he got hurt, and you're hanging on to this and you formed your perceptions, false negative thoughts and limiting beliefs. It can also, the fear of vulnerability can lead other people to project on others and hurt others. When we get vulnerable or we share something from our heart, sometimes it can trigger the crap out of other people. And because they haven't necessarily dealt with their ego and done their deeper work, they now like all of it comes out on you, right? They word vomit, they say things they don't mean. And that can make us feel like, well, it makes me not want to open up even more. And rather than having conversations and setting boundaries, we shut down more. And then there's, you create distance, and that, sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes it's not. So this inner child is very important to deal with. So while I've been going through this last couple of months, I've been loving my inner child more. I've been reassuring her more that she's safe, that it's safe for us to fully be ourselves, no matter what area of our life it's in. Right. But when we don't deal with these hurts from childhood just birth our ego, and then our ego leads our life. And the ego is the negative voice that goes, poor me, puts you into victimhood mode. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. Don't share. Because again, the fear comes in. And here's another part. If I share things that trigger you and trigger your ego, recognize your ego is getting triggered. And that's your stuff to deal with and explore. So recognize when people say things or do things a certain way and you get upset about it, it's your responsibility to start working through it, to explore it. Why does this trigger me? Why does this make me upset? Why do I get defensive? Why do I want to judge? Why do I feel the need to defend myself? It's very powerful, and it takes some emotional maturity to want to own that, because there's a lot of people in the world right now that are like, I'm right, you're wrong. And if you believe these things, you are an idiot or you don't deserve to live. Like the judgments and the opinions that people have laid upon others that don't have the same beliefs with them are shocking and inhumane. and I will not have any of it. I will not tolerate any of it. And I'm here to hold a community of love and support. And I think if we've been saying those negative things to others, there's a beautiful opportunity of growth inside for us to go inside and work on. So are you willing to go there? So I own and take responsibility that I'm ready to be fully me. A lot of our current hesitancy to be ourselves is really from the hurt, wounded inner child, right? That's been abandoned and not loved. And it's also because we're afraid of how society's going to view us, that we might get canceled and all this jargon. That's just BS. You can't get canceled. You're here, right? That's just a perception. But last week a choice point hit. I was having a lovely conversation with a colleague of mine, Therese, aka Blythe Starlight. She's been on the podcast, and she has a knack with tarot card reading. She builds beautiful pendulums and crystal jewelry. You can check her out on Etsy, Blythe Starlight. And she also does her karma card readings on YouTube. But anyway, so we're chatting and I was telling her about the stagnancy, and we're both having the same conversation around like, we're holding certain parts of ourselves back out of fear of judgment. We're trying to stay neutral about everything going on and not ruffle any feathers. And we both decided no more. We both decided that this is holding us back. Stagnancy isn't good for anything. And if I'm not fully practicing what I preach here, well, then it's not fair for anyone else. So we decided we're fully showing up. We're not holding back, right? And all my messages come from love. But anyway, pull these cards and it's like, get ready. Cause like, this shift of energy is just going to bring such a flow. And, then we were just saying like, hey, like, it's safe for us to be ourselves. It's safe for you to be yourself. So can you relate to anything I'm sharing? If so, what? DM me, comment below. I want to hear. I want to get this conversation going. I want to help inspire you. It's safe for you to be yourself, right? I want you to hear, what are your thoughts, right? Because I want to grow this dialogue. I want to help hold this space for you in a powerful community of women and men, of course, too, and if you're hesitant, what's holding you back? Vulnerability has really been the theme, right? So I'm sure it's going to continue to be the theme, but it's definitely feeling easier to step into it. But it has its moments, that's for sure. So I want to thank you for witnessing me in this expression. And essentially I'm going to deepen the levels of knowledge and connection between food addiction, binge eating, emotional eating behaviors that I believe are essentially created by the systems and structures currently in place on this planet that are all essentially crumbling. I'm going to talk more about the corruption in food, pharma, Hollywood, media, and industries on a deeper level. I personally don't support woke agendas that are disempowering humanity and causing further divide, fighting, conflict, and so much more. I don't believe in giving my full power away to systems and structures that don't have my greatest good in mind. I'm here to be a powerful, sovereign being. And I don't tolerate or support segregation or taking people's rights away or anything for that regard. So I'm going to combine the journey with my awakening. We are in the Great Awakening. Awakening means so many things. It could be you awakening to your self-sabotage with food, awakening to your struggles to be vulnerable. It could be your awakening to your intuition and your soul and your spiritual gifts. It could be awakening to certain things going on the planet that you just know are not right. Many are awakening, and it's going to continue. And I'm also not here to force anything on you. This is just sharing. As I always say, take what's resonant, leave the rest. So I'm so grateful for all of you that are here. Obviously, if this turns any of you off, you are so welcome to go. But I have nothing but love for everybody. And I want you to keep sharing the stories. The stories are so important. I know we're here for big purpose and to assist this planet. And this is why I can't just sit in a comfort zone anymore. And I think that all of us should step out a little bit more, right? This is an awakening. This is a spiritual war of good versus evil. It's a psychological war. And I'm here to plant seeds. I'm here to answer your questions. I'm here to help reassure you if you're afraid. I'm here to pick you up. I'm here to shine my light and help you out, right? This is why I'm here. So I trust my intuition. I trust me. And I'm so grateful that I can share this on this platform. So share, comments below. Like I said, if you have questions, have you woken up? What's your experience been? There's no judgment here. This is a safe space. And if you have questions about anything from awakening to ascension, to binge eating, to emotional eating, inner child, vulnerability, et cetera, leave your questions below. I'm happy to have a further conversation. So that was the big first part. So now how vulnerability builds self-love, courage, and authenticity. So this part will be a little bit shorter, but man, there's so much below vulnerability, so much insecurity. So thank you for listening. So this being vulnerable builds leadership. It builds a paving the way for all of us to live more in our power, be authentic, give ourselves permission that it's safe for us to be our fullest selves in our fullest expression. Vulnerability is power. Vulnerability is strength. I'm going to say that again. Vulnerability is power. Vulnerability is strength. It's self-love, and it's you stepping into your more authentic self. It takes courage to share this with you, and I hope it inspires others to do the same and know that you're not alone. Don't hold back. Don't hold back, right? I feel like certain aspects of humanity have been suppressed, like self-expression, like sharing what's on our mind, free speech, spirituality, and no more. Vulnerability is courage. It allows people to be seen and understood by the people who are important in their life. And you all are important to me. And that's why I think this weighed on me for so long, is because I'm like, I care so much about my community. I don't want to rub anyone the wrong way, but I also know that those of you who are with me and know who I am will totally respect where I'm coming from. And when you can accept vulnerability, you may find the experience in really, really great emotional benefits. I've been so vulnerable with my partner the last couple of months, and he's been so sweet and so loving. I always knew he would be, but going through the experiences I have with him, it's just been like, wow, I'm so grateful. When we're vulnerable, we create more strength. We gain confidence and belief in ourselves, resiliency, that we can face anything and come out the other side stronger and more connected, more compassionate for self and others. We build stronger relationships with ourselves, our inner child, and others. We have more compassion, empathy, and connection for ourselves and others. We have more self-acceptance. We get to accept and embrace these different parts of us and shine light and love on the parts that feel uncomfortable or insecure still, right? We build this confidence and this authenticity, and all the women that I've witnessed stepping fully into just being themselves are growing and creating more success and abundance and aligned clients and happiness and peace and freedom, and they're thriving. And we all deserve this. And some of the content and channels that I watch on like YouTube and Rumble, like they're thriving and growing and only gaining massive traction because they're sharing. And this isn't about me getting followers. This is about me just being me and going like, I'm so excited to see who comes along for the ride, right? But when you're in alignment, things expand because the energy is flowing. When you're out of alignment, things get stagnant and stuck, right? So anyone that you feel like, you know, if you're wanting to get more into vulnerability, forgive yourself. Start forgiving yourself for things that you've done to yourself and others that you feel like you're hanging on to. Forgive others, right, that you are upset with, because it's hard to get vulnerable with self and others if we're holding on to all these grudges towards self and others. You're important. And the more you can like remind yourself of this, the better. It helps you realize you are of value. We're all of value. We're all here to have a big contribution to the planet, and you are important and matter too. You don't know whose lives you've touched. And that's why I wanted to talk about this day, because I don't know who this is going to touch and impact, but I know it's going to, because I know every episode does in some way. And I'm so excited to see who comes forth, who shares, who this is resonating with. Embrace your mistakes. You're human. It's a learning opportunity. Your fails are a learning opportunity. Stop trying to prove your worth and value, right? You have nothing to prove. You're worthy. Just come and be vulnerable. Be yourself. Share. Like I'm catching myself on you, be like, oh, like justifying why it's okay for me to be myself. It's like, no, like I'm just going to be me. Right. And you can't be everything to everyone. So it's okay if this doesn't jive for everybody. I'm totally okay with that. And I'm just sending everyone love no matter where you're at. But I have had to detach from that. So let's talk about steps to ease into vulnerability, and then I'm going to wrap up, because I feel like this is, like I said, you're going to want to come back to this. So one way to start easing into a vulnerability is, like I already said, forgive yourself, know your value, and stop trying to prove. You could journal and all that yourself. That in itself could create a whole course. Stop isolating yourself, your fear of vulnerability. Stop holding back your words, who you really are. Start embracing your authentic self and know that you're safe and it's safe for you to do so. Even if you've been hurt, right? If I would have held back my hurt with my love, my soulmate, and we wouldn't have got back together, even though he broke up with me the first time, like 12 years ago. It wasn't the right time. If the energy felt different when we came back together almost 8 years ago, there was no way I was going to go, well, he hurt me, so I'm not. It's like, that would have just been horrible. I don't know where I'd be if I would have held that grudge, right? Get over your hurt, forgive others. Doesn't mean people have done you wrong. Doesn't mean you have to go and be their best friends again, but at least forgive. One of the biggest pieces to starting to become vulnerable, honestly, is to learn how to love yourself, to accept yourself, to feel worthy. So if you want to come and do some healing work together, you want to step into your worth, your power, you want to access these parts of you, book a body freedom session. Let's have a conversation. Let's talk about the safe space, the support that is available to take this at your pace, to guide you and walk with you every step of the way. Loving yourself is a lesson. It's one of the main reasons we come to planet Earth, is to learn to love ourselves. Everyone has flaws, imperfections, embarrassing stories, oops, things we've done, right? Like, it's all good. You're human. But then we let these things lead us and define us, and we become insecure and awkward and wish we could change certain things. And it's like, forgive, let go, learn to love yourself. One of the ways you start to love yourself is to heal the self-sabotage that you're in with your body, with your weight, with food, whatever it is, right? Everyone's going through their stuff, but heal your stuff, heal it. It helps you love yourself. You can't love yourself fully if you're hurting yourself, right? Everyone has their moments. So also allow yourself to be human. I'm being very human in this episode, right? So other things you can do to step into vulnerability: take chances that may lead to rejection. Acknowledge mistakes, acknowledge your fears. Today, I've acknowledged a lot of mine, right? Be willing to feel through your emotions. Reconnect with someone you've fallen out with. And I said this last week in a membership session. I talked about vulnerability. I'm like, I know a lot of people who have fallen out with each other in the last 3 years because they had different opinions and made different choices. Was it really worth ruining the relationship? Are you ready to rekindle, or are you going to keep holding a grudge? It's your choice, but I just know that I wouldn't want to, right? Be honest about your needs and relationships, boundaries, expectations, right? These are all things you can do to start practice vulnerability, right? Start being kinder to yourself. Start complimenting yourself, encouraging yourself. Treat yourself the same way you treat a friend, a loved one, or a child that you really care about. Show yourself empathy and compassion. This is so important. This is all part of this. There's lots of things you can experiment with, a lot of things that you can try. Whew, what an episode. Thank you for being here with me. Thank you for listening to all of this. I'm so grateful for you all. I'm sending you all so much love. And I'm glad I did this today. I'm proud of myself. I want to take a moment to acknowledge me and make this about me, because this business is for you and everything I do is for you. And I'm also realizing it has to be for me too. So if I can do it, you can do it. There's the proof always. So the show notes for today's episode and the links, if you're listening to audio, can be found at amberapproved.ca/podcast/405. Of course, all the links on YouTube are below in the description section for the Rumble channel, for the podcast. If you want to book a body freedom call, you want to take the free emotional eating quiz, if you're wondering if you're struggling, it's all there. You can also go to amberapproved.ca really easily if you want to take the free emotional eating quiz, learn more about body freedom and me, listen to the podcast, and book a consultation or whatever you feel called to do. If you're loving the podcast, leave a review, leave a positive comment in the comments below, whatever you feel fancy to. And always don't hesitate to share like topic ideas, podcast ideas. I'm such an open book. So I'm sending you so much love. I'm cheering you on. As I always say, there's no better time than the present to be vulnerable, to love yourself a little more, to be kinder to others, and to go on your healing journey. So take that action now. It's our responsibility on this planet to heal this planet. We've got a lot of healing to do, but the more we can work together, the easier it's going to be for it to happen. So I'm sending you a lot of love. And I can't wait to share a whole new episode with all of you beautiful souls next Sunday. Take care.